This is Geek Gab with your host, me and Dornall. I was supposed to say Daddy War. Man, this is... How much into the show? We're into the show like 2 seconds and I've already flubbed it up.
We'll fix it in post-production.
Oh, sure we will. Because that's what we're famous for. Fixing things in post-production.
Good morning, Daddy Warpig. This is Geek Gab. I believe you meant to say, we are back.
Oh, that's right. We are back. Geek Gab for Saturday, April 20th, 2019. And we have an awesome guest on the show. And I think that it is doubly and trebly clear from how well this has gone to this point that we ought to just let him talk right now so I can gather my thoughts.
Hey, how's it going, folks?
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
I could do a proper intro. Well, welcome to the show, Steve Holetz, also known as Bonehand from Bonehand.com, co-host and what do you call it? Podcaster general of the BoneBat Show. Welcome, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, I think I was putting on airs the day I typed that up, but
hey, man, when inspiration strikes and it's on the internet forever.
This is exactly right.
So don't bother.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it. I'm kind of sort of coming down off the high of last weekend's festival. So to have a chance to chat in a relaxed atmosphere and kind of talk about things is welcome.
Well, that's what's great about the show is that our guests can be really relaxed while we're panicking about technical problems behind the scenes. So,
right. Yeah. I'm used to hosting my own show. So when I'm on somebody else's, it's like, you guys drive. I'm going to sit in the back and drink my tea or whatever.
It's good. Speaking of tea, I'll repeat this. I'm enjoying a nice cup of tea in my commemorative BoneBat Film Fest mug with the with the monsters engraved on the side. This is wonderful. It makes the tea taste better.
Yeah, we went next level this year with these sandblasted mugs. We're pretty proud of those. Those are fun.
That's awesome. So this is let me recap, because we talked about this last week on the show. I was so excited right after the show. My dad and I hopped in the car and we went into Seattle. Yes, that Seattle. And we went to your film festival, the Comedy of Horrors Film Fest. I was so pumped, and it was great. I had a really great time. But you're coming down from that high, Steve.
Yeah.
So this is
like the day after Christmas, kind of. You know what I mean?
Yep. It was an awesome show. I had a lot of fun. But before we get into the details, you can relax. How about a little retrospective? What's on your mind? What do you think about the show?
About the film festival?
Yeah. How are you feeling? How'd it go?
I think it went great. We sold out that room for the first time, which we've moved theaters 3 times or 2 times previous. So we originally started the festival at Big Picture in Redmond, Washington, which isn't there anymore. It was a smaller room, and we sold that out. We moved to Central Cinema, which we absolutely loved, but we sold out that place our second year. And we had 2 consecutive sellouts, and there were so many more people that wanted to come. And so we doubled the size of that with this theater that we've been in SIF for the last 4 years. And we finally sold that out. So it looks like we're probably due for either a move to their bigger theater or another theater. So, the numbers were there. It's always great to, at the end of the night, everybody's filing out of the theater and they've all got a smile on their face and they're all talking about what their favorite films are. And to me, that's when you know that we've done something good. We made a lot of people happy today.
I was happy. Full disclosure, I actually didn't stay through to the end of the night. I'm not a huge horror fan, and that's what makes it so cool. It's for the uninitiated. You just had something like 40 shorts, and some were live action. Most were live action. Some were animated shorts, and they were all horror films. But either they were comedies, or they were sort of written with that sort of that tongue in cheek, like, yeah, we know this is horror. We know it's going to be, cheesy and schlocky. We're going to have fun with it, that sort of thing. And you just played that all day.
Yes. Yeah, as far as I know, we're the world's only dedicated comedy horror film festival. And that doesn't mean that every film is comedy horror. It'll slide back and forth on the spectrum, as you mentioned, from something that is outright terrifying to something that's really funny but not that scary. And even some things that are just there for a quick shock or a gross out. We'll throw that in too. The whole thing is kind of a mixtape from us to keep the audience on their toes and entertained for the full day.
It worked. It really worked. In fact, one of the ones I remembered that didn't exactly fit the mold, but was I think you must have selected it because it was very good. It was sort of a ghost story called Demon,
Yes.
and it was just a little story. There's only 2 characters in it. There's really only 2 characters in it. There's a demon, but I won't spoil which one is the demon. And it's just like a creepy little ghost story, but it was obviously a guy who. It was shot by a team who wanted to sort of show off their cinematography. They used all the cool tricks that are sort of, if you look for it, they're well known, to make it look like it was all done in one take.
Yeah, a lot of single take stuff, and also a lot of everything was shot in natural light. So it was shot with a full moon in the desert. And then you had like a bonfire and like gas lamps inside of a cabin. And that was it. There was no like Hollywood style Klieg lighting or anything like that, to illuminate the scenes. And it's kind of the mix of that with this sort of maybe overwrought Tarantino-esque dialogue from these 2 actors that kind of just pulled the whole thing together for me anyway. I found it just really intense and really dragged me in.
That was my favorite. I would have voted for that best in show. But you guys did
got several votes for best in show. That's one of the fun things too about this fest. We feel like we did a good job. 47 shorts this year. Probably 38 of them got votes for best short. So that means that every film's not going to be for you, but every film is for someone.
That's awesome, and it exposed me to this audience because I knew that horror fans existed, but I was wondering, you've been one of these fans and you've been running the show for years and years. Do you have a lot of people that just love this stuff that come to the show or come up to you and say, "Hey, man, this is great"? Like, how big is this audience?
Oh yeah, and these are also people that we'll be seeing like in 2 weeks. Crypticon Seattle will happen, and it's a lot of the same members that are in that community that really love horror. You might be friends with them on Facebook or something, and you see when a new big horror film comes out, like Us a couple of weeks ago, or Pet Sematary. These people are all talking about going out and seeing those opening day, and there's a lot of it's a great community, a very a community that's very excited about horror and what it can do.
And that's new for me. Like I said just a few minutes ago, like, I'm not really a horror fan. I think my favorite horror movie is probably Alien, which will tell you probably all about my tastes.
Yeah, that's a fantastic film. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Haunted house in space. You can't go wrong with that.
Wonderful. But there's another thing that I thought was really interesting, and sort of sitting through the show, not just as a fan of horror, but more like a fan of various films. And of course, I wanted to support my pal running this show, but it looked really well put together. I sat down and I'm like, how the hell am I going to sit here for 10 hours watching shorts? But you guys broke it up, and you didn't just have intermissions. Your intermission was live music.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Well, that's a philosophy that comes directly from the podcast, that we've always kind of felt like, if there's so many podcasts out there, as you guys well know, as podcasters yourselves. So you're competing for attention, even if it's like an hour a week or whatever it is. There's a lot of great stuff to listen to. So how to differentiate yourself. And so we've always felt like, well, if we break it up, we'll chat for a few minutes, we'll play a song, we'll cut to the next thing, we'll interview somebody, we'll come back to some more chat. Keep that variety has always really worked for us. And so when we decided to do a film festival, sort of bringing the same things that we like to do with the podcast to the festival realm seemed like a natural fit.
Yeah, it makes sense in that from that perspective. You're just like, let's just rent out a movie theater and then have a giant podcast today.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Have you tried that? Have you just had you and your co-host Gord just sit down and shoot the shit in the theater?
No, not too much. That would feel, I don't know, a little masturbatory maybe. I mean, because I'm in a band as well, and like I don't think I'd want my band playing at the film festival. I think I want to keep that separate because there are far better musicians than me. So
Okay.
let's see them. Let's have them play. Let's have real filmmakers, do the movies, and I'll sit back and pull it together and just enjoy the whole thing.
Now that sort of brings me to the other thing that I was thinking about when we were chatting on Wednesday during the almighty Gloomhaven game.
Indeed.
The Gloomhaven is the glue that binds us together with hate and sorrow.
So wait, when you say you're going to go play Gloomhaven, you're playing with Steve here?
Actually, Steve's my second game of Gloomhaven.
Oh.
This is why I don't have any other free time during the week.
Right. Yeah, it kind of takes a little time to play that game, but it's great. I've had a lot of fun with it.
Oh yeah, it's been, well, let me put it this way. I'm in a second long-running game, so there you go. I guess, but we were talking about the film selection and everything, and one thing I wasn't clued into is how many great independent filmmakers are out there, how many great independent films are out there. And you said something that shocked me, is that you reject a lot of submissions, and I'm trying to figure out, how do you get so many submissions? I didn't realize there was so much just independent horror films being made every year.
Yeah, absolutely. And these films are being made by everyone from, Hollywood directors and writers and filmmakers that have some downtime between features, to student films, to just some guy who had an idea and decided to shoot something on his iPhone. I mean, they're really the only limit is your creativity these days when it comes to filmmaking. And, we get hundreds of submissions each year. For people who run film festivals, there are actually portals online where if you're a filmmaker, you can go to a portal and register your film and then choose which film festivals you would like to submit to. And you submit your films, and we get hundreds. And my co-host Gordon and I watch every single one of them. And we give them a rating, and we narrow it down to the ones that we think are best. And then one day in March, we sit down and have a big argument about which ones we like best. And we finalize our lineup. That's kind of how it all comes together. In a lot of ways, I think our festival is sort of a challenge for filmmakers to get into, because some film festivals like SIFF, Seattle International Film Festival, they've got a great big jury of people to pick films, right? But for this specific festival, the Comedy of Horrors, you have to make two people, myself and Gordon, laugh or scream or cringe or whatever. I mean, that's a pretty narrow niche, and it's a very specific audience that you have to please in order to get into our fest.
Well, it worked for me for the most part. I think most of the films that I saw that day were entertaining in one of those aspects.
Yeah, and it's good that Gordon and I have sort of, I say, different but complementary tastes. So like he's really responsible for, if you wonder where the beautiful animation comes from, Gordon's the one who's chasing that stuff down, because he's the big animation fan, and man, he knocked it dead this year. Each animated film we had was awesome, and it was awesome in a different way. No two films looked the same. and it was really cool to have that sort of a presentation.
Yeah, I agree. I think I saw the one, I think you said it won the show, was an animated feature, Wild Love or something like that.
We haven't announced that yet, man.
Oh, spoilers. Spoilers.
Well, now the millions of screaming fans of this show know what the secret is, but they won't tell anybody because they're cool like that.
Thank you. Yes, please keep it under your hat until episode 176 of the BoneBat Show, a week from tomorrow.
Okay, well, I'll keep it. Other than broadcasting it over the internet on YouTube, we'll keep it quiet.
Thanks, Geek Gab fans, much appreciated.
Lots of great, and you're right, because out of the animated shorts, I really liked two of them, and they were completely different. One was absolutely uproariously funny, with some brutal, shockingly horrible moments, but it was all played for laughs. And the other one was just sort of short and quiet and sweet,
Yes.
which I didn't expect from the show, but I really enjoyed it. It was a nice palate cleanser, if nothing else.
Yeah, we occasionally have sweet things. I'm kind of a sucker for sort of, 80s type John Hughes stuff, which is why I think I love, last year we had one called Happy Anniversary, where the zombie couple that was really sweet. Or this year, this social media-asakiss music videos, which kind of have like all the slasher monsters from the movies in high school. And it's just kind of this silly, fun thing. And I really enjoy that.
Yeah, that was they did a music video of that. That was really funny.
Yeah.
I really like that. Wow. There's another thing that you mentioned. So I've got this bouncing around in the back of my head, and I thought I might as well bring it up on the show.
Okay.
That would this sort of festival work for other genres or other types of film? Because I think you mentioned that you get a lot of submissions that don't work because they're too science fiction-y, not enough horror.
Yeah. We've talked about, Gordon and I have talked about this for years, that we get these like a really cool time travel story or something like that just doesn't quite fit our festival, but that would, if you could put enough of them together, it would make a really cool festival that is kind of a different vibe. And yeah, I think that you could use that treatment with another genre. Absolutely.
Well, I hope that someone listening is inspired to sort of start their own film festival off of that model, because I think it was a cool model. It was a great way to sort of spend an afternoon and an evening just hanging out with people who like the same sort of stuff.
Yeah. Well, the idea for the film festival, of course, Gordon and I kind of, when we became college age, would go to the Spike and Mike Twisted Animation festivals, when those would come to town. And so that was kind of a big inspiration. And then like a decade ago, right before we started this, two things happened. Another podcast that we were friends with, Drunken Zombie from Peoria, Illinois, they had gotten access to a theater and decided to do a film festival. And so that sort of gave us the idea. And then there was a zombie film festival here in Seattle called the Revenant Film Festival that I attended a couple of times. And I just loved that experience of, it was a little bit shorter. It was like 6 hours, but you'd watch a couple of features and a couple of shorts, and they had a prize giveaway. And it had a lot of the nuts and bolts in a different order of what we do now. And that was such a good time for me that I sort of wanted to replicate that, but add our own flavor.
I dig it.
There it is.
I even that was deliberate. I told Steve before the show about we'll occasionally point out a dead air, and so I let that happen just to get you to notice it.
Yeah, Gordon and I will do that on the show too. Just kind of, wait, were you going to say something? It's almost how long can you go before the other guy will speak?
So the thing with shows like this is I didn't go to the festival. I've probably never seen any of the shorts that were in the festival. Mm-hmm. And so when it comes to having a conversation about the festival, you guys can do your thing and I'll be listening, but I'm also looking at ArtStation right now. So
Well, later on, if you're interested, you can go to the BoneBat Film Festival website. And from previous years, we do have links from the shorts that we have shown previously. So you can, check some of those out and kind of get the flavor of what we do.
sounds cool.
Yeah.
You actually mentioned something. You mentioned the Drunken Zombie Film Festival.
Yeah.
And that perked my ears up because you said it's in Peoria, Illinois.
Yes.
Do they still run that?
They do not. Drunken Zombie folded like 3 years ago as a podcast. So the folks who did that show do other podcasts now, but I don't believe that Drunken Zombie, either in podcast or film festival form, is an ongoing concern any longer. Unfortunately, they were a great bunch of guys, and it's always good to see them, associated with other stuff, because they always had really good taste. But they were somebody that kind of started podcasting like within months of when we did. And so we sort of had this, sort of friendship based on that we came up at the same time.
Oh, cool. It's funny that came up because you said that they're in Peoria, Illinois, and that's where our good friend of the show and former co-host, Brian Niemeyer, he's from Peoria, Illinois. So I think I'm beginning to suspect that there's some sort of cosmic nexus in that part of the world.
Yeah, he might know those guys.
I think he went to the festival several times.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a big film guy. He actually used to manage a movie theater out there.
Oh, nice.
Cool. All right. Well, it's all coming together. Everything's happening in Peoria. If you were wondering where the apocalypse was going to start, I mean, some people might say, yeah, probably the Middle East, but no, I think it's going to be in Illinois, in Peoria.
That wouldn't surprise me. Actually, I would be betting it was in Illinois, Chicago, but maybe they need a smaller place to start with before they go play the big city.
Yeah.
Somebody kicks over that barrel of 245 Trey oxen, and we're off to the races.
I always say when people bring up the end of the world, that's okay. I was kind of getting tired of the place anyway. In more positive news, just to get you away from business for a minute, Steve.
Sure.
So what sort of stuff outside of the film festival, what sort of stuff are you into as far as movies or pop culture or whatever?
Well, as you know, big horror movie fan. So when new flicks come out, I try to check those out. Also, I'm kind of into on Shudder. Are you familiar with Shudder?
Never heard of it.
It is a online sort of horror TV channel. And on Friday nights, Joe Bob Briggs is hosting a double feature. And last night we were watching Madman from 1981 and a Japanese horror film called Wolf Guy, the Enraged Lycanthrope, which was freaking insane and hilarious.
Wolf Guy.
Yeah, Wolf Guy, which is a great title. So kind of following that, I'm also in a band called Social Meteors with some other musicians that are from Redmond, and we play covers a couple of times a year. And so that takes up some time because we get together for practice. Of course, Gloomhaven. I'm into board games, and occasionally I'll kickstart a few things. And Gloomhaven, we've been trying to get that in about every other week. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, holy cow. The Kickstarter addiction in board games is something else.
Yeah, and it seems like there's so much good stuff coming out. And last year I got a game called Nemesis, which is sort of like, you mentioned Alien. It's essentially Alien, the board game. Ooh. You wake up from hypersleep and there's aliens chasing you around a ship, and you have a limited number of turns to either escape the ship by accomplishing your victory mission, what do you call it, checklist, or detonating the ship. So it's a good time.
Does it work? Does the Kickstarter as a crowdfunding platform work better for for board games than it does for, say, role-playing games or comics?
I don't know. I don't know that I've kickstarted many comics or role-playing games. I think I've only kickstarted either film projects, uh, new albums by musicians, or board games. I haven't done a lot with comics or role-playing.
Yeah, we've talked to a couple of people who have successfully done crowdfunded campaigns for both comics and RPG supplements.
Mm-hmm.
And while the projects themselves were completed and finished and on their own terms wildly successful, they seem like small potatoes compared to some of these really big movie projects, or like when a celebrity pitches something and they get hundreds of thousands of dollars in. It's really weird.
Yeah, well, I mean, we kickstart the film festival each year, and the reason that we do that is basically to get the money to pay for the theater and the band. So, what we'll do, I've always felt like with Kickstarter, though, it always bothered me when you'd have like a filmmaker asking for $100 for a DVD. To me, as a reward, that seems like it's nuts. So for us, you can get your tickets for the film festival at a reduced cost from what it'll cost you once the tickets are on sale for as an advance ticket. And you can also get t-shirts and hoodies and the mugs. The mugs this year were actually a stretch goal from the Kickstarter. So we did well enough that we were able to offer that, and that turned out really nice, I thought. But yeah, it's making the biggest thing for me with Kickstarter is making sure that the rewards, you feel like you're getting a good deal. Because, hey, somebody's giving you money 6 months in advance. You really need to work to make it worthwhile. And when people don't, when it's just like, yeah, you're paying, say, for even a board game, you're going to pay, regular sticker cost of what you'd pay in a game store. Well, to me, that's not really a selling point. I'm not interested.
Yeah, that's a good point. Especially with the state of board games right now. I think to Daddy Warpig's question, what I've seen out of board games is that Kickstarter is a great way to increase the bling or the presentation of the game. Yeah, something like the Gloomhaven was a famous Kickstarter, and they basically upgraded all the components. The game was originally designed to have all paper components.
Yeah.
But guess what? Enough people put money in, and you got little resin figures for the characters.
Yeah, you got minis. Yeah.
That's really cool. And so it's a mixed bag, because I also played another game that was has the same sort of feel, like big, beautiful miniatures and a gorgeous, colorful map and everything like that. It was a game set in Japan, and it had these 6-inch tall Oni figures. Really, really cool stuff. The game itself, it's kind of boring.
Yeah. And that's the one thing you never know. I try to make a point of watching the Kickstarter video, whatever comes up, and also sort of perusing. A lot of times they'll put the rules online and kind of, at least sort of familiarizing yourself with the game first before I put down my money.
Yeah.
But I've still kickstarted a couple of games that I don't play often, so I don't know that I'm always successful.
Well, yeah, that's hard too, because board gaming is becoming one of those hobbies where there's so much out there to try that if you're on a mailing list or something like that, or in the Facebook group for selling games, everybody's got a whole shelf full of games that they don't play, and they're always hey, barely played copy of such and such. I kickstarted this and I never play it, sell it. It's gotten to the point where we're consuming them rather than just playing them and enjoying them.
Yeah, and there's the kind of the space aspect of it too, that board games tend to take up more room than a DVD or a book. So you even have to be a little more maybe careful about it if you have limited space.
I will say this. If you look at anything that is other than like a full-fledged movie production, and I'm talking like a AAA movie, like, high quality, everything's being commoditized. Novels, comics, there's just so much stuff out there now. And I'm not saying this is good or bad. I'm not, making a case one way or the other. but it's pretty much TV shows. I mean, we have so many small streaming services now that are hyper focused. It's basically just like cable online. And all of it's being commoditized. And the real big problem is not having an audience for your specific work. It is actually being able to get in contact with the people who will love your specific work. And that's the real difficulty. And as far as the audience goes, there may be, and is, because I've discovered these before, an entire series of books out there that are exactly what I would want to read if I knew it existed, but I've just never heard of it before, and nobody who likes it is in my social circles. It's actually a real difficulty.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the biggest challenges that we've had with the film festival is just explaining what the hell it is. Because it's like, well, it's got comedy and it's got horror and it's there's live music but explaining that in an elevator pitch to somebody, it's a little bit challenging. But once somebody comes to the festival for the first time, they seem to have a great time and they seem to come back. So I do see that as something that is difficult, connecting interesting content with an audience. And I think, as podcasters, that's sort of a mandate or an opportunity for us, because we can use our platform to share the stuff that we love with a like-minded audience. And, I think you've probably found it super satisfying to have somebody get back in touch with you later and say, hey, you interviewed this sci-fi author a couple of months ago and I read him and I love his stuff. And I've bought everything that he put out since. I mean, there's nothing that feels better to me as a curator than that, of connecting somebody with really cool art.
Well, because we do our show live, and this happened just a few weeks ago, we were talking about a Kickstarter for this one gentleman, and he got like 3 pledges just during the show and was able to tell us live on the air.
Yeah, that's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, that makes it exciting. I really enjoy that aspect of podcasting. Sort of like a bee pollinating a lot of different things. You're able to help get the buzz out. We talk about that at the film festival too. Like in the program, we try to put social media tags and things for all of our filmmakers, because we're aware of the fact that buzz is a commodity, and if we are able to shine a little light on these actors and directors and writers, it can help them down the road. One thing, butterfly wings flapping, that can help build to one day getting them a job or an opportunity on another film. So to me, that is kind of an important aspect of what we do.
Yeah, and I noticed that because I took a long break from Facebook, but I popped on Facebook and I noticed that leading up to the show, you were just every day or a couple of times a week, you were posting, all right, here's one of the films we're showing, here's a clip or here's a trailer or something like that. Like, check these guys out. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's coming exactly from that place of, check out these independent filmmakers. And it's interesting, some of the stories that we hear. So 2 years ago, there was a animated film from France that we selected called Garden Party, and it won our Viewers' Choice Award. And then the following year, it was actually nominated for an Academy Award.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Yes. And in our second year of the film festival, we had a short called Curtain that we played at the film festival. And the director of that was one of the co-directors of the reboot of Pet Sematary that came out 2 weeks ago. The movie Curse of La Llorona, which just opened this week, was directed by a guy named Michael Chavez, who had a film in our festival called The Maiden a couple years ago. So it's really cool to see these people who started out in a humble way, making films and move on to bigger and better things. That's really exciting.
That's great to hear that you're making those connections between the creators and the audiences, and that's sort of something that we've noticed authors are struggling with. Like we were talking about before the show, like being a writer is a really tough way to make any kind of living, right? Most authors tend to have day jobs, and
Sure.
I think you've sort of put that puzzle piece in the middle there. It's connecting with those audiences that's difficult, even in the age of Amazon, sort of the big platform where it's like a Wild West. Everybody can go advertise to everybody. You can't guarantee that the right people are going to see your stuff. You know, the search algorithms, the data processing, they're not necessarily going to get to your audience, if you even have an audience. If you're, especially if your audience is a crazy niche like comedy horror.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's why too, the difference between, just seeing a ad on Facebook or something that is sort of, I don't know, not personal in any way. The difference between that and having your friend come up to you and say, "Oh my God, have you heard about this author? This guy's changing my life. It's so good. You got to read it." Like that is what I find exciting. That gives me chills when somebody has passion in their eyes and they come to me and say, "Hey, this is really great. You got to check this out." Well, yeah, I'm going to, because, clearly somebody that I respect is enjoying this license or content or whatever it is. And, that's an opportunity for me to make my life better.
That's interesting, because in today's mass media climate, or at least throughout most of my life, it's been sort of the big pop culture things that get shared. Hey, did you watch the latest Star Wars? Did you watch the latest, whatever, that sort of thing? Or are you caught up with Game of Thrones? That sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So in a lot of ways, we're sort of hurt by that echo chamber that, yeah, you can share anything, but we've created this big mass pop culture, the like global pop culture, and frankly, not all of it's that good. So it's also made it difficult to discover. Well, it's just sort of like local musicians or local artists or something like that. They've sort of fallen behind in importance compared to global brands and global properties.
Yeah, that's right. But that's why, as a podcaster, I take that seriously, because, every episode when we put out a BoneBat Show, we have a different independent musician on the show. And so that's our opportunity to say, listen, here's 3 or 4 tunes by this band that kicks ass that you would never hear played on the radio. So if this sounds cool to you, go to their Bandcamp page, throw them a few bucks, and keep them working.
Oh, that's amazing. I did listen to one of your shows where you interviewed a local nerdcore rapper, which blew my mind. I thought that was hilarious. So apparently nerdcore is still a thing for those of you who don't know. Go check out MC Frontalot or whoever.
Yeah.
And
we do try to mix it up too. I mean, you might have the Pine Box Boys are a sort of a bluegrass act. I'm a big metalhead, so we play metal a lot on the show. So, it's always something a little bit different that my co-host and I might be interested in. But the important thing is celebrating independent music.
That's cool. Do you mostly stick to local acts and artists, or just from wherever?
Wherever, as long as they're independent. I mean, I don't really have, an interest in talking about Madonna or something like that.
Well, that's fair.
She's got a new album thing or single or something. I didn't really read about it. I just saw the headline like maybe yesterday. So, woohoo, Madonna.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's not a shot against her, but she doesn't need my help. A band in town might, get another gig or be able to sell a few albums on Bandcamp because we said something. So that's why we shine the light.
That's kind of the point, right? It's like, even me, who is not paying attention to like the music biz at all, I saw a headline on a website while I was reading a different article. Clearly, Madonna doesn't need help, because if I saw that headline and I'm not even paying attention, then lots of other people did too. And so there's other guys that actually need help.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so Daddy Warpig, the Geek Gab, we're focused mostly on books and film and TV and games and such. But if you were to promote music acts on this show, what type of music would you do?
I've been really into retrowave recently. And that's all Kaiju's fault. Kaiju Bushi regularly posts retrowave, and then I kind of grumble and I go listen to it on YouTube and I say, yeah, that's really good. I really, really like that. Yeah, that's something I'm gonna have to get. And then I go buy the album on iTunes. Sometimes less than like 10 minutes later, that he's posted his YouTube video. I've bought the album and I'm downloading it. So yeah, that's
Are you on Carpenter Brute?
No.
Carpenter Brute. It's basically like sort of keyboard stuff similar to the Halloween soundtrack by John Carpenter. It's that type of thing, but it might have like some hard rock guitars mixed in with it. It's totally fun. It's like soundtrack music for a movie that never existed.
That sounds cool. Hey, I've listened to some of that stuff too. This is weird how popular that got. That was, what was it? Macintosh Plus came out. That's the name of the artist, right? That started the vaporwave trend.
Vaporwave's a thing? I haven't heard of that. I got to write this down.
Yes, check it out on YouTube. Macintosh Plus.
Okay, I got it. Thanks.
And it's not just retro wave. It's that sort of heavy synth music, and they use distortion techniques to make it sound like you're listening to an old recording, like maybe someone's tape from the 80s, like a mixtape or something like that.
That's cool.
And I think as far as like an internet fad, it's more or less died out. But there was this fad of a while of videos that were edited to look like someone popped in an old VCR tape from '83, right? And I mean it's modern. They just produced it in 2017, but here's this weird video that looks like it was cut together from a bunch of public access commercials from 1980.
Yeah, no, I love that stuff. You've probably noticed a couple of films in our fest that had sort of had intros that had like, a videotape intro and bad tracking from like 1982.
Yep.
That vibe to it. And we love that stuff because that's when Gordon and I grew up going to the video store and deciding if we were going to rent Evil Dead 2 this weekend.
And the nice thing about it is that it's something I didn't detect. It's just a retro nostalgia fad, but what it seems to me, unlike other retro fads, is it's not genuine appreciation. It's sort of a modern sort of, not exactly mocking it, but hey, check out these sounds. Right. Remember,
sort of an ironic appreciation. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like an ironic appreciation, but it's not. There's no contempt behind it or anything like that. It's just like, yeah, this stuff wasn't good, but here's an interesting sound that might have been lost to time.
Well, see, if they're making it ironically, they've completely missed the boat because I unironically really, really enjoy retro stuff. Let me throw out some names real quick for people listening if you want to check it out. There's a guy named Ferris Melek, Ferusmelek, Ferris Melek. The album of his I bought is Decay of the Mainframe. It's an EP. There's a group called Mega Drive. I bought their Hardwired version 1.4 album. Again, these are all retro waves, so they're heavy synth, and they're not so much copying old stuff of the 80s. It's like they took the stuff from the 80s, that synth sound that you used to get, and are making new compositions with it, and I really enjoy it. There's a group called Mega Hammer, Raw Licks, Sleazy Flicks.
That sounds awesome.
And then there's a group, let's see, I bought a bunch of like small singles. Code Electro is the group. The single is called Shinobi. And if you can track down the video on YouTube, it's a fabulous music video for that. I just really love it. I got a single called Red Planet from Scandroid, Somnisphere from Caspro, Blood Patrol from Dream Hour, Santa Cruz from Slumber, but there's a V there, SLVMBER, and a group called Delos, and their EP is literally self-titled EP. So that's some of the retrowave stuff I've picked up. I actually have got some more here, but Epical by the Icarus Project, Vision by Red, Period, Burner by Judge Bitch.
You should do, you should do it. It'd be helpful if you put some of those like YouTube links in the description, And maybe do a quick Twitter thread on all this stuff, because I'd be fascinated to look all that up afterwards.
That sounds like a whole lot.
Making more work for you.
That's all in my iTunes anyway. I don't have links for it anymore. So,
see, this is cool because this is like different stuff than the stuff I was aware of, which is sort of very horror soundtrack theme. Like a couple other acts are Perturbator and Ghost, Ghost, which is different than the other Ghost that's kind of a metal act. But hearing about all these other new things that are a different vibe to it, I'm excited to jump down this wormhole.
I love that stuff too, because, and this is both a compliment and a criticism of it, that most of the time when I'm listening to music, when I'm working. So it's stuff that has to go on in the background. And so a lot of the good retro wave does that, so that you can see how that's both a compliment and a criticism of it.
Yeah, sure.
It's not everything you can actually just sit down and listen to and enjoy on its own, but some good background music.
So this is a question with an obvious answer to it, but I'm going to ask it anyway because I want to get into the discussion. I honestly don't usually talk about stuff I really, really love on the show.
Really? See, that's because for us, I mean, we certainly have a thing called What Pisses Us Off that we talk about every episode of our podcast, where we can rant and rave. But I would almost rather talk about things that I love more than things that I hate, because that's not going to further the cause in any way, just shutting something down. I would rather spread love and get more people onto really awesome stuff. That's sort of my philosophy anyway.
I'm going to have to, I think that's a good answer. And I think that's a good thought. I'm just going to have to think about that because I don't know. When I really love something, I just kind of enjoy it, and I don't really talk about it all that much. It just has never, not for a long time because of some particular circumstances. I mean, I do sometimes, but yeah, we need to do more of that on the show, because actually Dornall does it a lot. He'll come in and say, hey, here's this new thing I found and it's awesome and I love it. And I'm just like, okay, I love it. That's great. I mean, that's great that you love it, but I don't know.
Well, it's cool. I mean, you've got this great forum to do that. You have a place each week where people will tune in, and clearly they come back week after week to listen to what you have to say. So your opinion holds some weight. And so, you right now, you sharing these synthwave bands or retrowave bands with me, that's going to make me go out and check this stuff out. I'm excited about that.
Sorry, I'm having deep thoughts, Dornall. I expected you to jump in here.
Oh, yeah, well, I'm also having deep thoughts. About having an IRL emergency and literally stepping away from the show for 30 seconds.
Oh, that's fine. I'll cover you.
I picked the best 30 seconds to have to do that.
Right during the deep thoughts time. Yeah.
My apologies, gentlemen. We were talking about stuff that we love, and I like that too, because sometimes I get bogged down in negativity, especially reading things on the internet. I myself can often produce a lot of negativity, especially when it comes to, like I was saying before, what we see in pop culture. When you realize how that stuff has infected our lives, the Marvel movie franchise and everything like that. Like, yeah, I kind of have fun watching those movies, but in a vacuum, most of them aren't very good. And the quality of the films at the BoneBat Festival, where they were executed very well. Some of them were bad and some of them were good, but they weren't any worse really than a Marvel movie. They didn't have the big epic CGI sequences and everything like that. So I guess what I'm trying to say is it's good to find those things that we love and talk about them, because it's too easy to sort of see what's out there and say, man, what is this culture that we're consuming? It's not working for me.
Well, I mean, even when it comes to the big budget stuff, I mean, this afternoon I'm going to go see Hellboy. I've been reading Mike Mignola comics since I was a little guy. I love his art. I've always been a big fan of that sort of black and white woodcut look of the original comics. Very strong lines and, light and dark, contrasting against each other. I enjoyed the Guillermo del Toro first two Hellboy movies. So, maybe it sucks. The reviews that are coming out are terrible, but even if it's not a great movie, I'm still going to be sitting in a theater with a big bucket of popcorn in my lap. And I enjoy that. I like going to the movies anyway. I like Hellboy. Let's check out. Let's go see what this is about. Give it its day in court.
I'll echo that. I really like going to the movies as an experience. I know a lot of people don't necessarily like it. A lot of people would be just fine in their home theater, whatever. No, I like going to the movies. I'm looking forward to more good stuff like that. I don't know. I might take a chance in Hellboy though.
Yeah.
I just realized that a lot of the reason I don't talk about stuff is just about everything I do is research right now. Like even when I'm seeing like a movie or a TV show or something, the researchy stuff is always in the back of my mind. So I don't get a lot of stuff that is just fun for fun.
Well, I respect your hustle, DW, but you should do a little something for fun.
But the retrowave stuff, that was all for fun.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing that for research. I did that just because, hey, that's some good music.
Well, thank you again for the heads up on some of this stuff, because I think I'm going to get a lot of enjoyment out of it. I'm looking forward to digging in.
And you know what? They're probably independent enough to have them on your show to talk to them.
Yeah, well, if we end up with an act, I will absolutely give you guys a shout out.
Oh, that'd be well. I just want to listen. I just want to be warned so I could listen to the show. That'd be awesome.
And I just want to double encourage people. Go look for the music video called Shinobi on YouTube. It's fabulous.
Cool.
Actually,
now that you mentioned that, it's funny, the band Carpenter Brute that I was just talking about. So I had been familiar, that with the name, but I hadn't really sat down and listened to them. And recently I picked up their first album. And I was like, wow, this is great. I really dig it. And then it turns out I was totally unaware of this, but we played one of their music videos in the film festival like 3 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yeah. It's called Escape from Midwich Valley. And it's a H.P. Lovecraft themed video with the music, but it was sent to us just as a film, not as a music video. And so I never put two and two together until this year when I started listening to the band. I was like, oh, holy cow, I know these guys. So that was kind of cool, but I sort of felt like I had my head in my ass.
That's amazing. Sorry to say this, guys, because it's been a whole lot of fun, but we are closing in on about an hour. So is there anything else, any topics that you guys want to talk about before we head out?
I think that I've really had a great time chatting with you guys and kind of talking about the stuff I dig. So thanks for the forum, man.
It was a lot of fun to have you on. We'll definitely have you back on at least in time for at the latest in time for next year, so that we can spread the word out even more.
Yeah, I would be honored. Thank you.
Yeah, I wanna watch you guys sell out. Do you think in another decade you could sell out Key Arena or something? Just boom.
I don't know about that. At some point, we're still kind of an independent operation. I can't imagine having to bag stuff 16,000 swag bags by hand. That's
what you've got kids for, right?
I'd have to have more kids.
Training up your own child labor.
Hey, yeah, your kids manned the show, the merch table like a boss. It was awesome.
Yeah, no, they're super helpful. My whole family has been wonderful about, sort of embracing this with me. My wife comes and the kids run prizes and merch, and they're just the best.
Yeah, I can tell. Well, I didn't have any other questions or anything. It was a lot of fun. Plus, unlike the rest of you noobs, I'll see you next Wednesday or the Wednesday after for some Gloomhaven.
That sounds good.
But I do want to thank you personally for coming on and joining us and chatting. It was a pleasure. Thanks to guys hanging out in chat. We didn't get a lot of questions this week. I think they were stumped by horror films today. But we had let's see, Simon Hogwood. Yeah, we talked about him earlier. Rawls hanging out in the chat. Thanks for hanging out, guys. It was a really good show, and I hope to talk to y'all again. Programming note: I'm going to be out for the next 2 weeks for various events. So talk to Daddy Warpig if you want a Geek Gab show. Daddy Warpig, anything else to say?
Not really, man. I'm okay right now. I'm too tired to be like upset about anything. I'm so exhausted that being angry about something just feels too much like work right now.
Well, that's okay. We don't need a Warpig rant every time, do we?
I posted some memes last night or like news clips and stuff, and I was just like, hey, here's something kind of cool, I guess. And man, there were some people getting really angry, and I was just looking at it thinking, should I be angrier about this than I am? I don't want to be because I'm way tired. Just, it's ridiculous. So I'm going to go on and just hang. See, other people have to like do dope to get this mellow, and all I have to do is be sleep deprived for about a week, and I'm good.
You're good.
I mean, I'm literally sitting here. My eyes are at half mast. They're like half closed. I'm all relaxed in my chair. I'm just, looking at cool pieces of artwork and talking on the show. And I'm like, dude, I am so not high right now.
Yeah. That's a happy 420 for you.
There you go.
And yeah, happy Easter to you guys and everybody out there
Happy
listening.
Easter.
Happy Easter, everybody.
All right. Daddy Warpig, do you want to send us off?
Sure, I will do my job. The one job I have on this show that I messed up at the beginning of the show, so let's see if I can do this properly on the way out. All right, folks, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for everybody who came into the live chat. Once again, big thanks to Steve for taking an hour out of his action, fun-filled Saturday to come and hang out with us. I want to remind everybody listening, if you've never heard the show before, or even if you have, you can catch Geek Gab on youtube.com/geekgab. That's youtube.com/geekgab. And you can check out all our past shows, all of the amazing and awesome and original shows that we have done right here for you. But if YouTube is not your thing, you can also subscribe to the show as a podcast on the Apple iTunes and on the Google Play Store. And if you want to listen on the web, you can get us on SoundCloud.com. Just do a search for Geek Gab, and you can find us in any of those places. You
did it.
I don't know if I can promise that. Like next week, okay. We are leaving you for today, but don't you worry. Don't you fret. We will be back.